want for this area. And so it's great to see this many people out, active in their community and looking to help us with this general plan. Just to give you a little bit of introduction, I'm Scott Moultrie. I'm the Development Services Director. We have Melanie Stradling, she's our planner for our planning department. Matthew Gunderson is our planning manager. And Jeremy in the back, he's doing our IT work. We are hopefully trying to stream this. We got a request from the supervisor's office to be able to stream this, and hopefully it's working, and those that maybe weren't able to make it today can see it through the video. Just on that note, if there are individuals that weren't able to come to this meeting that you know of, this is just one of the first steps. We're looking to get your input in this general plan, and there's many opportunities that we're going to have to be able to get that input from you. So this is one of those ways, is coming to this meeting and commenting and giving us your feedback at this meeting. We do have some other ways online or in other meetings that individuals can attend to be able to give us that input as well. And we'll go over all those options during this meeting. Just to give you a little background of what we're looking to do, this is a general plan update. We're mandated by state statute to update the general plan every 10 years. Last time the general plan was updated was in 2015. And we're looking to come to each of the communities. We've been to several communities throughout the county. And we're here now with Valle Vista, looking to get your input on your community here. Really what we're looking for is what you see for the future of the growth of this area. If you feel like it's pretty good and the plan's pretty good, then we can keep what we got. If you feel like there's things that maybe need to change, if there's development or a plan that you'd like to present to us, this is the time to do it. This is the meeting to do it, and we do have other options to be able to submit those comments in the future as well. But that's what we're looking for, is your input for your community here at this time. One thing I would like to preference is, I know a lot of times when we get together, we want to start complaining about maybe some code enforcement issues that we might have in this area. This meeting, to be productive, I'd like to stay on topic of making sure that we're talking about the general plan, the development for this area, and what land designations or goals, policies that we would like for this area. That's what I would like to stay on topic with. But I do want to hear if there are some complaints or code enforcement issues that you'd like to address with me. I do have a code enforcement division that I would love to hear any of those complaints that you might have, and I will take those down. If we can meet after the meeting and we can sit down and go over those complaints, I'd be happy to do that with you, so that we can keep this meeting on top, if that's possible. With that, we're going to go through a couple slideshows. Our first slideshow is going to be what is a general plan, and why do we need it, and why do we need you in our general plan. So we're going to go through that a little bit. We're then going to get into some of the goals and policies that we're looking to update or change in this update that we're doing. And then after that, we'll get into the Valle Vista general plan area and the land designations that this area has, and any proposed changes that we have for that area. And that's when we'll kind of get into a dialogue with you on what we're looking for the future of this area. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Matthew Gunderson. He's going to kind of get into what is a general plan, why do we need it, and why do we need you.
All right. So we're going to dive right in. So as far as what the general plan is, one of the things to keep in mind is that as far as planning and zoning is concerned, each property in the county essentially has two different designations. There's a general plan designation, and then there's also a zoning designation. So the general plan is part of this process, this document that we put together with the help of the various communities throughout the county, that we're looking towards the future on what type of development we want to see. And that's what it is. It's a plan. It's an overview for the county. and kind of a big picture look at things. And then the zoning ordinance is the more strict and regulatory. This is what you can or can't do on your property within any given zone. So we want to keep that in mind as we go throughout this process. If we're changing things within the general plan, that's great for future development. It's not going to change actual uses that are currently allowed on the property. That's the zoning ordinance that dictates that. So the reason why that's important is that for future development, anytime a property comes in to be rezoned, to change that zoning designation, because they want to do, their property allows for A, B, and C within the zoning ordinance, and they want to do X, Y, and Z. So they have to change that zoning ordinance. One of the things that we look at as a staff and present to the Planning and Zoning Commission and our Board of Supervisors as it goes throughout that process is what the general plan is for that area. So we're looking at the current designation and also other designations in the area that might be similar. And so any time a property is rezoned, the general plan, we need to bring the general plan in compliance with that new zoning. So the general plan needs to be amended as we go. So one thing is that the general plan is a plan we're going to put together now, but it's something that changes over time. And if we look at the maps we have over here, you can see the bottom maps are what was approved back in 2015, and then the maps on top there are what it is currently. And there's certainly a lot of similarities, but you'll notice some differences, including in the Valle Vista area, where we changed a big piece of the undeveloped general plan for this area. Since it was never developed, it didn't meet those kind of development guidelines. A couple years ago, we took a big chunk of that away and turned it back into a rural development area because that's more what we see as of right now. And so it does change over time, but by giving your input on what it's going to be now, as new changes are proposed in the future, that general plan really guides some of those future decisions. And so that's kind of why we're going through this, why we have a general plan. And then as we dive into the document itself, it's broken up into, these are the different categories. So context for planning is basically a statistical overview of the county. Then we have resource conservation, community development, public infrastructure and services, area plans, which is something that will probably change quite a bit in this update, and then the actual plan implementation of it. So within these different categories, we have those different goals and policies for each of them. And so that's a big part of this update as well, is making sure that the goals and policies of this document still align with the county and the individual communities, and we want to make sure that those things are on track as well, and we'll kind of look at those in a little bit more detail here in just a few minutes. And so these are the kind of the various areas where we have different goals and policies currently. So there's natural resources. This includes water and energy, and we'll talk about water and energy a little bit in more detail as well. Land use and community balance, various hazards such as flood hazards and fire hazards. There's housing, economic development, infrastructure, and transportation. This is probably hard to see, but this is just some of the different land use area types. I know we have our categories that we look at, and we're looking at this document all the time, and our definition of what is urban, suburban, and rural is probably different than yours. And so just for context here, a rural development area, as far as the general plan is concerned, is essentially parcels of land that are 5 acres or larger, so, and residentially zoned. So residential properties 5 acres or larger, that's a rural area. If the lot sizes are between 1 and 5 acres, we call that a suburban development area. And then if we're getting parcel sizes that are less than 1 acre, that is considered an urban development area. And I know for Valle Vista, there's different subcategories within that urban development area that include low-density residential, medium-density residential, and high-density residential. And so that's kind of what we're looking at when we use those phrases. So just to kind of keep that in mind as we go through. This one you definitely can't read. And so this is some of those other subcategories. And we can bring that back and talk about it in more detail if we have questions later on. So the importance of the public input through this process is that we want this general plan to reflect the community values. We want the community members to be able to provide their input and want to know what you guys want to see moving forward and address local concerns. I live in Kingman. It's not that far away from here, but certainly the needs of somebody living in Kingman or someone living in Bullhead are going to be different than someone living here or someone living up in the Arizona Strip area. So we want to make sure that individual communities are able to address the local concerns that they have. And then, as we mentioned earlier, it's a means of shaping future development. And so we definitely appreciate you guys all coming out and being a part of this process with us, and hope to be able to answer questions and get that input from you guys. And so different ways to get involved. Certainly here tonight, attending this workshop is a great one. We'll go over submitting comments, so you can submit comments on our county website. If you're going there for the first time, there's a special notice up there that talks about our general plan update. And if you follow those links, you're able to type out a comment and submit it, and that goes straight to our department. We also have an email address that we'll put up at the end that you can email. And then we're going to take the comments that we receive here at this meeting tonight and through comments we receive after this meeting. And next month there will be a subcommittee of our Planning and Zoning Commission where we'll talk about the different comments that we received and talk about how to implement those comments into the general plan. And then we'll have more of those subcommittees later as well as we discuss the goals and policies. So attending those public meetings is beneficial as well. And then of course just staying informed throughout the process. So kind of a timeline of what we're looking at here. So the items in green, the gathering comments, doing our statistical update, and holding our community workshops is what we're going through right now. And then we also have the Planning and Zoning Commission subcommittee meetings that are every month. And then after that, the goal is to be able to finalize our proposed changes at the beginning of 2025. We then have to send those out to various reviewing agencies, including all of the adjacent counties, the various state departments like the Arizona Department of Environmental Quality and the Arizona Department of Water Resources, and other ones. And so they have their own comment period, and then ultimately it needs to be approved by the Board of Supervisors. So we're hoping to do that also kind of in that first quarter of next year. So that's the process and the timeline that we're looking at. We started this process really back at the beginning of the year and have been doing these meetings since, I don't remember when we started, May, or I think our first ones were in May. So it's a lengthy process, but one that we're going to continue to go through, and we've received some good comments so far and hope to be able to continue to receive those. So that is kind of a general, brief overview of the general plan itself. Next, we're going to dive into some of the goals and policies, unless we have any specific questions over anything that I've covered so far. We can kind of take a pause and answer any of those questions.
So any questions about what is a general plan and why do we need it? Do we have any of those questions? Really what the general plan is it's not regulatory. It doesn't make regulation, but it helps guide us as we develop the county. So the zoning ordinance and the zoning that is in place has to align with that general plan, if that makes sense. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question, and it might be a dumb question.
No dumb questions.
But with the zoning, do you have a say-so in preventing Cracker Jack homes to come into our area? Because a lot of the homes are here are on a quarter acre, sometimes bigger, but do they?
So the question is can we, with the zoning regulation, can we essentially have design standards on the houses? Mojave County, our zoning ordinance has 0 design standards. So there's no, if somebody wants to build a single-family residence and the zoning allows for that single-family residence, then they're able to do it. One thing it does, we do have within our zoning ordinance, we have different zones. Do we know what most of Valle Vista's zone, is it R1 or is it RO? Somebody's RO. So RO does kind of have a little bit of limitations where it doesn't allow for manufactured homes. So that's within your HOA, right?
Yes.
Your POA. So yeah, each subdivision within Mojave County is allowed to create their own POA or HOA with their own regulations, their CCNRs, that can also regulate maybe design standards. But as far as Mojave County is concerned, in our zoning ordinance, there are no design standards. So if it's allowed in our RO zone to have a stick-built home, single-family residence, they can build a single-family residence, but we're not gonna tell them how it has to work, I guess. That's not something that we get into, but on a more intense level would be the POA or the HOA. That's a good question, thank you very much.
What does RO stand for?
So RO is single-family residential manufactured homes prohibited. It's a long one.
Okay.
But yeah, single-family residential manufactured home prohibited. We do have our zoning ordinance online that has the RO section in it that lists all of the approved uses that are in that zone. With that, we're going to go into a few of our goals and policies within the general plan, because that's a big part of the general plan as well, is what do we look for in the county? What are some things that we want to protect? What are the direction that we want to go? So goals and policies help us with that. And then any future regulation, whether it's on a local level in our zoning ordinance or on a state level, we can point to our general plan. We can say, hey, our general plan wants us to protect water. Then we can point to our general plan and say, hey, state, this is what our goals and our policies for Mojave County. Let's see if we can create some regulation out of it. So we're going to dive into that a little bit.
Yeah, so here are, again, some of those categories where we have different goals and policies, and we'll kind of go through each of them a little bit, but the big one is definitely resource conservation, and so within resource conservation, there are goals and policies as it pertains to air quality, natural resources, noise, scenic resources, water, and energy. And then we have asterisks next to water and energy because we're going to talk about those a little bit more. Under community development, that's where we have our different land use designations, like our rural and suburban and urban designations. We also have something called outlying communities for some of the smaller, older communities throughout the county. It goes into historic preservation, some of those fire and flood housing needs, as well as economic development. And then with infrastructure, we talk about new development, water and wastewater systems, flood control and drainage throughout like new subdivisions and things, as well as transportation. And then public facilities are going to include parks and recreation, your fire districts, sheriff and medical, as well as the cost of development. And then area plans. Area plans is probably one of the things that we're going to change the most. So a while ago, the county went through and they had a lot of individual community area plans that were very community driven, and they all have their own separate map and document. And so when someone was coming in to develop a property, if they were within an area plan, they would have to try and rezone their property, but then they'd also have to amend the general plan and they'd have to amend the area plan. And it was just kind of a lengthy process. And so we're trying to streamline that a little bit by incorporating the area plans into the general plan. So that's why we took a lot of these old area plans that were never developed at all and got rid of them. And then the ones that have developed or partially developed, like this community, we kind of made them smaller or incorporated them into our general plan. So now we have one map that shows all of them. And then part of this process is we'll still take those goals and policies from those individual documents that we had and bring them into the general plan. So they're all in one place to make future development a little less convoluted. And so we want to dive in a little bit to water resources and also kind of give you a feel for how the goals and policies are laid out. So obviously water is a major concern in Mojave County. Looking throughout the county as a whole, down in the Mojave Valley area, we have the Mojave Valley Irrigation and Drainage District. We have proposed development down in that area that is unable to move forward because they don't have enough water allocations to provide all of the proposed development. And then in this area, we have recently the Arizona Department of Water Resources instituted an irrigation non-expansion area because of the increased agriculture in the area that's been depleting the aquifer. And then if you follow our Board of Supervisors, they continue to fight to prevent the transfer of Colorado River rights away from the river. They're looking to transfer those rights from communities and farms along the river over to the greater Phoenix area, who are always searching for more water rights. And so they've been working to try and prevent that from happening, to keep the water kind of along those communities.
So, I just read a recent article in the newspaper. So how does that proposed study affect this general plan? Because I know that the Mojave County Supervisors sent a letter opposing it, but just recently, it's been approved for them to do a study, which is also going to affect the aquifer, and how is that going to affect the general plan? How do you, I mean, how can you prevent that from happening if it's on BLM land?
You're talking about the pumped hydro storage facility,
Yes,
the power
Yes.
generating plant, yes. So yeah, I was the one that wrote up the document in opposition to give to the Board of Supervisors, because we are very opposed to that project in this Wallapai Basin, because it's at risk. We do not have the water to supply 2 reservoirs, right? Your question is a great question. Ultimately, the county does not have any jurisdiction over anything that happens on federal land. So it is all completely on federal land, and we do not have jurisdiction over there, but we, as a cooperating agency with the BLM, can voice our opinion. And I know our supervisors are very adamantly opposed to the project as well, and they're going to continue to voice their opposition with that. Just as on a personal side note, not personal, but on a side note, I have met with the owners, or not the owners, but the developers of this project, and they understand our concerns, and they are trying to look for other alternatives for water outside of the Wallapai Basin, and I hope they do. And we're going to try our hardest to work with them to find other resources as well for water outside of this basin. But yeah, great question.
Pete, can you read that again about the non-expansion area? What did you say about all these orchards and fields over there were once part of the plan, the grand plan, and then they were not, now we're part of the non-expansion area? Can you expand on that? I'm not quite sure what you really read fast through that, and I'm concerned.
No, we can go back, absolutely.
You were a little bit older, you got slow your roll.
Yeah.
I apologize. Yeah, so the Arizona non-expansion area, it basically means that the existing farms that are currently there are allowed to continue to operate.
But
it
they're
means
new
that
farms. They're new.
I mean,
All the orchards are.
all the,
Taking the water.
right, so the farms that were here as of when the irrigation non-expansion area was instituted, which was earlier this year. So farms that have been there and doing it, using them, irrigating their land, are allowed to continue to do that. But it means they're not allowed to expand, so those farms can't go and buy the adjacent property and expand their area and start irrigating those lots. So it doesn't stop them from doing what they've been doing, but it stops them from expanding. I know that Supervisor Lingenfelter and our Board of Supervisors have been looking at that. I know the state legislature's there have been proposed bills about different ways to protect rural water areas from similar things happening. But this is kind of the instrument that we have available to be able to do this now. I know the county worked with the Arizona Department of Water Resources to be able to get to this point. The county spent and did a lot of time working with the USGS to do the water surveys to be able to show, hey, this is how much our aquifer is depleting, to be able to help get that in place. And it's certainly not a grand fix to things, but it's progress and hopefully will help in the future.
What about all the farming area down Stockton Hill that's gone, that's dead? And they went and moved someplace else. Can they use that water for the dead ones now and like redo it? Because if you drive down Stockton Hill Road, you'll see dead trees everywhere.
So the irrigation, non-expansion regulation says within the 5 years, if you had irrigated land within 5 years since they enacted it, then you can still irrigate it. But from my understanding, the water where all of those dead trees are was not good water, and so that's why all the trees died. That's my understanding of it. But anyways, if it's been longer than 5 years, they could no longer use that as part of their irrigated land. We have aerial photo, as a county, it's really out of our hands, but we want to make sure that we're still trying to monitor it and let ADWR know when, hey, this farm is expanding. So my crew, I have a flood control division that we have surveys done of what is currently being irrigated or farmed, and we're going to do that every year. So if we ever spot something that's more than what's out there currently, then we're going to go, hey, ADWR, they're starting to irrigate a little bit more. We're also looking to put in some monitoring wells so that we can monitor the level of our aquifer. And if it starts getting way too dangerous, then that's going to give us more power to be able to go to the state and say, hey, look at our levels. We're not going to be able to sustain if we don't do something, so that might help us out a little bit. I did notice there was a question outside in our little room over here.
Oh, I just wanted to make sure that nobody else could plant and grow.
Yeah, that's correct. Correct. What's there now is what everybody's stuck with. As far as the Wallapai area, other areas in the county we don't have that regulation, but just in this Wallapai basin, nobody can bring in new irrigation. So another question right here.
Just curious, did the USGS say how many acre feet of water is in that aquifer? Do we know that statistic?
I don't think I have those numbers.
Yeah, I don't have that number off the top of my head. I would have to go back and
I think it is significant. We do have quite a bit of water in there, but the water that the farms potentially could use could deplete it pretty quickly. So they're not depleting it right now with the amount of water that they're taking out. It's still a very big concern. And with the potential that they could have, with the size of the wells that they have, and as many wells as they have, there is a potential to deplete it pretty quickly. But as far as the irrigation non-expansion, that puts a Band-Aid on it right now, and we're still looking for more opportunities. At least our Board of Supervisors is very adamant at looking for more opportunities to see how we can mitigate the situation, as well as Development Services wants to monitor and protect that water as well.
All that was just indicated due to the nut farm installation.
Sorry, say that one more time.
So the water tap pretty much was implicated due to the nut farm.
I mean, the irrigation non-expansion area. I think it's been something that the county has been working on for quite some time. Prior even to some of these nut farms, we had lots of alfalfa farms. And we've been working with ADWR for quite some time, trying to get something in place. There was a time that they even wanted an AMA, which is not very good for residential development in the area, but it stops it. They finally did get that INA just this last year, like Matthew said, and it has, like I said, it's put that Band-Aid on it for right now. We're gonna keep working to see what we can do for the future. Yes, ma'am.
Scott, one last question. And you're policing the compliance of these farms by aerial, or so that they're not expanding? Is that what I'm hearing?
Correct.
Because there's no permit to
Right.
add another farm, right?
Correct. So they actually have to, they're supposed to notify ADWR of all of their irrigated lands. That's one of their requirements. ADWR has given them a grace period of some sorts to be able to get them those numbers. Mojave County, we didn't want to wait for them to give ADWA numbers. We wanted to make sure that we had our aerial imagery. So we have a drone
Okay.
that we flew over all of the farms when it was enacted. We were doing the study again. It's been, I was just informed by my flood control department that they are looking to go out and do the study or fly over this weekend. So we're going to be taking some more aerials to take a look at
Comparing.
what's out there now. So we're going to keep comparing it. We're going to keep monitoring it. If we see something different, we're going to run to ADWR and tattle on them, make sure that they
Good.
stay in compliance. With that, so Matt's going to be getting into one of the things that we want to change in our general plan is to hopefully give us a little bit more teeth, more ability to protect our water, and that's what we're looking at in one of our water policies.
To accommodate that new development, while also not adversely affecting the existing development. And so, kind of to give you a little look at how some of these goals work. So the current goal that was approved back in 2015 said the goal was to consider the quantity and quality of water resources throughout the county. So it's very vague, and as a non-regulatory document, it has to be pretty vague. But we do want to change it a little bit. So the kind of the proposal here, from a staff perspective, would be to change that to monitor and protect the quantity and quality of water resources throughout the county. And so just those word changes kind of help us as we go and send our letters to the Bureau of Land Management or to ADWR or state legislators or whomever to say, hey, we're actively trying to monitor and protect the water that we have. And so within that, within each goal, we have different policies. So we want to be able to coordinate and cooperate with ADEQ, ADWR, utility providers, and the USGS concerning the availability of water resources. We may support state and federal programs to monitor and protect water resources throughout the county. And then Mojave County should not approve land use rezoning for projects that may cause aquifer depletion or land subsidence unless the applicant offers effective mitigation measures and provide adequate engineering documentation for that implementation. So we want to make sure, again, that this new development that's being proposed or changes that are proposed have the water availability to be able to handle that. And so similarly, we've looked at renewable energy. There have been a lot of renewable energy projects that have been proposed in the county on both public and private land. So much so that back in 2023, the Board of Supervisors put a moratorium on renewable energy projects in Mojave County, which gave staff a chance to be able to go in and look at our ordinances as well as what some other jurisdictions did to try and figure out something to kind of help better shape where these types of development have been. And so we were able to go in and change it. And so now renewable energy projects, mostly solar and wind projects on private property, have to be in manufacturing zones. So our M2, which is general manufacturing, or MX, which is heavy manufacturing. Part of the idea of that is that those are going to be away from existing residences. So what we saw is you had We have ways to be able to put solar projects on most of the residential land within Mojave County. And so developers find that residentially zoned property is a lot cheaper than commercial or industrial zone property. So they would buy up large residential properties and try and change them to put in these large scale or like utility scale solar farms. And we had a lot of opposition from those residences that would live around there. And so this was an effort to be able to change that. And so we wanted to be able to make sure that there's still a path forward for those projects, but in a way that makes more sense for the county and protects the county citizens. So the current goal, again, in the 2015 plan was to encourage the efficient use of alternative energy sources by residential and non-residential users. So we want to alter that a little bit to encourage the efficient use of appropriate alternative energy sources in conducive locations. So kind of along those same lines too, we had a couple development proposals that we're looking at doing hydrogen production and storage in the Red Lake area, which is very water intensive, the current way to do that. And so we had one proposal that came through that was staff recommended denial for and was denied by the Board of Supervisors, and there was another one where I know it was at least discussed, but they never came through and sent it through that process. But we want to make sure that renewable energy projects make sense for the area and don't adversely affect our residences or our residents. And then again, those policies, so we want to be able to encourage the development of beneficial renewable energy production facilities in conducive locations that are compatible with any existing adjacent development. And we want to be able to prioritize renewable energy projects that provide power to the communities within Mojave County. So we would see these large scale solar farms come in and be proposed, especially along the large transmission lines that we have running out of Hoover Dam and through Mojave County. And most of that power that's generated gets put onto those large transmission lines and sent either out of state to California or down to the Phoenix area, and they didn't really benefit the energy needs of those within Mojave County. Yes.
So, do you have any kind of a plan for Mojave County electronic out here? The reason why I'm saying that is because we have a lot of power outages here, at least once a week, or sometimes even more.
Actually, my husband used to work for Mojave Electric. All the power from Mojave Electric goes down through by the Wallapies, and then it comes down Hackberry Road and then down over here. That's a Mojave Electric question. They
Yeah.
need to upgrade.
Yeah, so the Mojave County doesn't, we're not a utility provider, so you guys use Mojave Electric. So we don't have the ability to, beef up that infrastructure. That's something that would have to go through the co-op there.
What's interesting about these slides is that they all say the county should encourage, instead of the county shall encourage. I know it's not a regulatory document, but even the ones before where there's a new developing coming in to mitigate their changes to our grids, our water sources and everything, you said they should encourage instead of shall. That seems a little wishy-washy. It's a gray area.
Right, that's a good question, and what that, like Matt's been describing, it's not a regulatory document. Ultimately, the decision comes up to the Board of Supervisors. So that's why it's a should, shall, because that's what it should happen, but ultimately the Board of Supervisors can make a different decision if they ultimately choose to, when either a rezone comes in or a plan amendment comes before the board. So that's with that.
I just had a quick question on the renewable energy. If they were looking at photovoltaic solar panels for businesses, is that what I'm hearing? Not so much for residential?
If I understand the question correctly, are you, is the plan looking for that? Is that what you're saying?
If somebody's gonna put in solar, for example, the way I thought I interpreted the comment was it would be mostly for a business or manufacturing, for example, something like that.
No, so what it is, and what Matthew was describing at the beginning is, we changed the zoning ordinance to make it so that you can't just come out with this open area next to residential and put lots of solar panels out there. But if you're looking to do a bit large-scale solar farm or energy farm, you would have to do it in our manufacturing zone.
Yeah, that was.
So it's not, it would still serve the same purpose of what they're looking to do, generate energy, but it would be in that zone away from residences. What the zoning ordinance changed back in 2023. That's the change that we made. What we're looking to change in our goals and policies is if a development wants to come to the county, we're gonna prefer a development that provides energy to us, not ones that provide energy outside of Mojave County. And we're gonna make sure that they're in the locations that are approved by the Board of Supervisors in those industrial type locations, not in our residential locations.
And to clarify, this is large scale, utility scale type solar projects. This isn't gonna prevent a resident from putting solar panels on their roof, or a business. We'll see sometimes businesses or like schools will put up solar panels in their parking lot and they have covered parking there, solar panels. That is still an option to be able to supplement the power that they use at that existing site.
So, in my understanding, basically, you're just keeping from people coming like sell lots, trying to
Correct, that's what the intention of the zoning designation is doing, is keeping it away from residential, large-scale solar farming, and moving that to where you already have more of your industrial type uses like a power plant or a refinery or a landfill or whatever it might be. Those are in our industrial zones. That's where those solar projects should be as well.
So does that mean that now you have this great big huge solar farm or these renewable energy projects, you can create rule or policy or law that says they have to sell that power now to Mojave Electric Cooperative? It stays in the county, is that what you're saying?
No, what we're trying to say is that any future projects that come into the county, well, this hasn't been adopted yet, but this is our proposal, is if this gets approved and a new project wants to come to the county, we're gonna say, hey, let's look at our general plan. Our general plan says, hey, we're gonna prefer a project that benefits us. And that's what we're gonna base our decision on when it goes to the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Board of Supervisors. We're gonna look to
Benefits
Wow.
our utility, our local utility company?
Mojave County, that's what we're looking to create a policy for,
Right.
yes.
Yeah, so if a nationwide solar company came in to propose a solar project, we will look at that company differently than we would look at MEC coming in and proposing a solar farm, perhaps in a similar location. It may make sense for MEC to put this here to be able to serve their residents more so than a nationwide one that's gonna transmit it elsewhere.
With that, we would like to get into the Valle Vista vicinity. We're gonna go through the general plan that we have currently in this area and the zoning, some of the zoning that we have for the Valle Vista area. This will be our last presentation, and then we can get into some of the discussion of what do we want to look for this area and as far as land designations or development. So we'll go through these slides here in a little bit, and then we'll get into some of the comments and questions, and we can go from there.
All right, so I don't have a lot of these, but we'll go through them. So here is Valle Vista. So the gold color is low-density residential, which is one of those urban development areas. Most of the lots are, from what I can see, are usually between around 8,000 square feet. Some are a little smaller, some are bigger, but they're all in that 6,000 square feet to 1 acre lot area, which fits right in with that low-density residential. The area around that green color is a rural development area. So those are gonna be those parcels that are 5 acres or larger. And then also we have there's a couple areas where it's a little bit higher density, which is the orange color. And that is gonna be single-family residential lots that are less than 6,000 square feet. We also have a few commercial designations, which are the pink and red colors. The pink is neighborhood commercial, which you see up at the top. I think there's just this one corner of red, which is a storage facility, and that one is general commercial. And then you can see the green with the dots right there in the middle is commercial recreation, which in this case is the golf course. And then as we move north, most of it again is a rural development area. There are a couple lots that are commercial recreation. And then we also have this development here that was platted, I should remember the year, I've looked at it a lot over the past few months. It was platted a long time ago. The zoning on it is RMH, which is residential manufactured homes. So it would only allow for a manufactured home. There is no infrastructure out there. There are no paved roads, which is, if someone were to come in and try and develop a subdivision with that size lots right now, we would require them to have paved roads leading to the subdivision, and throughout the subdivision, they would have to put in water services, electric services, they'd have to put in a centralized sewer system. So this is kind of a unique area. The general plan still has it listed as a rural development area. I know we've had a lot of those lots go up on the county tax deed sale, so people will buy one or multiple of those lots. So that might be an area that we may look at changing to be able to allow people to maybe be able to build out there.
Is that in Valley Vista?
That's by the gun range.
Is it technically in Valley Vista in RC?
I couldn't tell you if it's in the POA. It is, Valley Vista Unit 4 is the name of the plat.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
I'll take it back.
Okay.
But yeah, that's just an area where there are a lot of small lots.
I did notice you don't have a park up
Honestly,
Well, it's not a green belt.
Where's the park at?
Superstition.
I have one that's zoomed in a little bit more at the end. We could zoom in a little bit. Honestly, a park is something that we would allow in most of our residential zones, so it probably fits within a residential parcel and low-density residential, because we want to be able to put that type of facility anywhere we have lots of homes. So this is that area kind of just north. We've seen quite a few minor land divisions, lot splits in this area over the past few years, but they're all still over that 5-acre threshold, still considered to be a rural development area.
You guys are considering, you said you might take into consideration for development is basically you said.
Yeah, so that's something to consider. So like I mentioned, with development with the size of lots that are up there, there's a kind of an expectation of different infrastructure as far as roads and utilities go. This area doesn't have that, so as far as infrastructure goes, it fits kind of a rural development area designation. However, if anyone were to try and rezone one of those lots to be able to put anything other than a manufactured home on it, then they would have to do a plan amendment to change it. And so density-wise, it fits within a low-density residential designation. One thing we potentially could do is you could change it to a low-density residential, you could change it to a suburban development area, which would try and hopefully push it to lots that are still larger than 1 acre, so that way if somebody could buy up 4 of those lots, they could potentially rezone it to agricultural residential, but they would still have a 1 acre lot. And that would allow them to put a septic system on there, and so there's different options out there. There's probably not a perfect solution to it, but we have fun little areas like that throughout the county that were platted back in the early 1960s or before we really had any regulations on subdivisions. So That's kind of all I have on the maps. I do have a couple of the more zoomed in ones if we had specific questions. We can get into streets a little bit closer. But as far as what's currently existing, I think right now the development and the lot size fits pretty well with the general plan, at least in the kind of the POA area of Valle Vista. So off the bat, I don't see any major issues other than that Unit 4 one. But certainly the whole purpose of this is to get your guys' input and to be able to see what you guys want to see moving forward.
So just as we move forward with today's meeting, everybody could have received a little map with, on the back, there's an option to be able to write comments. If you don't want to speak in this large meeting, you can write your comments down, and we're going to take all those comments with us. We're going to analyze them. We're going to apply them to our next meeting with our subcommittee meeting with the Planning and Zoning Commission. So if you want to write comments to us and give us those comments, we'll take those. Like Matthew said, the other option is to go online and submit an email or a comment through the website. We can take those. Just so you have those options. You don't have to speak today, but if you'd like to do those other options, you're able to. With that, right now, we're going to go into any thoughts or comments that you as a community have for this area, for Valle Vista and our current general plan. Like Matthew said, within the POA area, it seems like it's working as far as the general plan is concerned. If there's concerns or anything that you guys want to address, we're going to take those comments. We obviously might want to fix something up with the Unit 4 portion. Just to give you an example of what we're looking for, we had one of these meetings in Golden Valley. Golden Valley has quite a bit of different land use designations throughout the valley. One of them was an urban density or urban development area all along 68. We weren't seeing that it was being developed that way. The community voiced their concerns about having that much urban development along the 68. And so one of our proposals to the subcommittee meeting was to remove a lot of that urban density and return it to more of a suburban, which they wanted more of a 1 acre lot size development along the 68 and throughout the Golden Valley. So that was one change that we made in the general plan. That's kind of the comments and stuff that we're looking for in this general plan update. With that, I'm going to go to our first question here.
Just a question.
Yeah.
We're looking at a proposed extension here out to Route 66. Will that be included in the general plan?
So you're looking for an extension that would come, where would that come? Do you
What's to be going here? Superstition.
Superstition.
From 66.
Yeah, we had-
That one
This
right
is
there.
So I turn my mic back on. This is superstition here. Yeah, my understanding is
Can't
that,
see your mouse.
Oh, you can't.
here it is. Superstition is right here. So as it comes out of the subdivision, and yeah, I believe the goal is to connect it down to Route 66. I don't know, that's something that goes through Public Works. I know Director Latowski recently discussed this at a recent board meeting. But yeah, that's something that would go through our Public Works Department.
Yeah, we talked
So
about
it's in
it,
the general
we had
plan.
another meeting that we talked about it. And they
We
wanted,
talked about roads coming through here, because we've got one way in, one way out. We understand we've got borough, but you need a four-wheel drive to take that out. You know, no cars moving through there, we talked and discussed, so I looked up a little bit out here.
but they wanted to keep that dirt road.
Can it be in the
The
general
county-
discussion?
Yeah, and that's something, certainly write that comment down, and we have that transportation section of the general plan. And we could look at goals and policies that try to ensure that, new development has multiple points of access for emergency purposes and emergency access.
Matthew, do you know the area plan that was for this area, did it have its own goals and policies, or was it just a map?
I should have looked at that before, I'm not positive.
Yeah. So one thing that we're looking to do, so if you notice on you can kind of see here, this area had quite a bit of development proposed. This is the Golden Valley area, or not Golden Valley, Valle Vista, and we removed that area plan and just left what we have in the POA area. With that usually comes goals and policies. So if it had goals and policies, we would try to transfer those goals and policies to the general plan as well. And if the goals and policies for this area is to have multiple accesses, we can definitely include it in our general plan. So please provide that comment to us. We have it now recorded as well, so we'll take that comment forward. But I have to emphasize that by putting it in this plan doesn't mean they're gonna build the road, but it shows what you guys are looking for in this area as a goal and policy is you want multiple access points to this subdivision. So, let's come right here and then I'll come back to you, sir.
Okay, my question is, this is all Valley Vista?
Yes.
Up here is the Mountain Vista area, and I don't see any plan for that.
Correct. Right now, it's just rural development area.
And
You,
there's nothing in the 10-year plan that you guys are,
currently, it's developing as a rural development area, and that's what we're proposing. That's what's been proposed. But if you have other ideas, or the community has other ideas for that area, we'd take those. That's why we're here, to take that
I would just be
information.
curious as to what's planned for that area up there, because a lot of us have large properties
Yeah.
and their roads.
So right now, the plan is rural development area, so it's 5 acres or larger.
Yep.
That's the plan for it.
That's me.
And if that's what you want to keep, that's what we'll keep in there. If there's something different that you're looking for,
I'm just wondering what's planned for that, because we got a lot of land out there.
yeah. So right now, the plan is to keep it rural. That's what we have.
Yeah, she doesn't want the tea house, is what
The
she's
tea
saying.
houses. I'm gonna come back here.
Yeah, real quick. So in round numbers, big picture, you all, who do you report to?
I report to the county manager and then the board of supervisors.
So your personnel that you supervise, you are basically an advisory group to the board of supervisors?
Yeah, so we're creating this plan. We're going out and doing the community meetings. We'll compile everything, and then we're gonna send it to the board of supervisors, and they're gonna make the ultimate decision. Correct.
Okay.
Based on our suggestions.
Correct, yeah, and we have a subcommittee built of the Planning and Zoning Commission that we also will bring these ideas to, and they'll help form the plan and the decisions that are made as well to present to the board. I'm gonna come right here.
Question over here as well.
Okay, we'll get to you. I'm gonna come here first, and then I'll come to you.
Several communities around Kingman have their own area zip codes. Can you tell me why we can't get one? And if not, who do we go to? Because we got lousy mail service out here.
Zip codes, that's a little out of my realm of authority.
I don't blame you home, they don't even recognize, but I still get mail at my house, but they don't even recognize my house yet.
It's great. One thing that we do have here is Melanie Stradley is our new planner. She used to be our address and coordinator. She might be able to answer that a little bit better.
The zip codes are actually all assigned by the post office, USPS. My understanding is they periodically get in touch with us for information regarding permits that we've issued regarding new homes to try and accommodate and plan for service expansion. I know that within the last few years, they've expanded service delivery. Their route carriers go out further. But as far as a separate zip code, that's something you'd have to talk to them specifically about. You might consider getting in touch with the Consumer Affairs Department, regional office in Phoenix. They might be better equipped to answer that question than the local office.
Post office is the one that assigns to us, right?
Yes.
Post office.
Thank you.
I'm gonna come over to this gentleman.
I believe a communique was produced by Mr. Lingenfelder saying that financing was made for the road going out on Superstition. Am I not correct?
So that's a little out of my authority. So I'm over Development Services. That would be something that our Public Works Department would know. And if you'd like, after the meeting, I can give you their contact
No, it would
information.
be a great thing for everybody here not to have to drive all the way through town. I'm all the way at the back. And it would be a great thing if you didn't have to drive all the way through the town to, when you can turn at Superstition.
I agree. I think that would be a great idea. I saw a hand over here.
Yes, Brook Road, it's might possibly be another way out here, goes out around the outpost, 66. Will that ever be paved, as it gets washed out, you can't travel down?
It's a good question. The question is Brooks Road gonna be paved? Again, that's out of my realm of authority. And I would have to defer to our Public Works Department on that. Yes, ma'am.
What is that orange pinky?
On North End.
It's hard to read to see what it is. Where
It's commercial high density.
Well, where is it?
So the concho goes right through it, right?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, so this is Concho, this one is Blackjack Drive, Red Horse Drive. So the orange is a medium-density residential land use designation, so that would allow for a little bit higher density than the rest of it, and then this pink area is a neighborhood commercial land use designation.
Matthew, do we know, does it have that zoning on it, or is it just the general plan?
I'm not sure, I can pull it up
So
real
what
quick
is
on the
higher
phone.
density use? Smaller homes, condos?
Yeah, so what medium density would allow for is your multifamily, duplexes, your condos, not condos, your townhouses right next to each other, stuff like that. Neighborhood commercial, the pink is a commercial that would allow for things that would be typical for maybe a residential neighborhood area, so maybe a restaurant, convenience stores, not. Trader Joe's. It would not allow for like a gas station or something like that. Trader Joe's might be difficult to get there. Right here.
So I'm brand new to the area. I've been here maybe not even 2 months yet. I know we have a fire department in Vista. I believe that's the only emergency service outside of downtown Kingston. Do we have like a citizens emergency response team or anything like that? Any groups like that that I could join? I'm retired,
Yeah.
first responders.
That's not something that I would have information on. Maybe the community themselves has emergency response information or a group that you can join. I'll let you get with maybe the POA or the group that'll be able to help you out with that. Any additional comments or questions that we would like to address right here? If not, we can take your comments. Also, these boards are meant to be written on. So if you have a comment, we have some Post-it notes, we have some Sharpies, we got some pens. Come up here, we can write on our boards. You can tell us, hey, this looks like an area that we need to develop or improvement or whatever it might be. We'll take any and every comment that you give us. Do we have anybody else that is looking to comment? Yes, sir.
One last quick question again about just the area that's designed to be townhouses.
Just the high density area?
High density area. Has this been approved yet? Has this been approved by
That's
the
what I have-
COA yet? Or is this simply a proposition by Mojave County?
So it's not a proposition by Mojave County.
Okay.
This is what's currently in the general plan that was adopted in 2015. So then in 2015, and I think prior to 2015, this was a part of the plan when Valle Vista was first created, I believe. I have Matthew checking our actual zoning map to see if it's already zoned for those type of uses or if it's just part of the plan. But we'll get back to you in just a second about that. But it's It is in the general plan stating that it's medium density and then neighborhood commercial.
I don't see.
Do you have any information on any large rezone applications that are pending right now
For this
for
area,
this area? Within like a 5-mile radius of Valle Vista? Any large rezone applications pending?
Not that I'm aware of currently.
The tea house.
Something we need to know about?
So-
Please show up.
The tea house.
I'm glad we brought that up. If you do, we have a list of emails that we send every time we have a planning and zoning commission, we can send you the agenda to your email every month if you give us your email. And then you can take a look and see if there's items in this vicinity for this
Off
area.
of Brooks, it rezoned for the tea house. And,
Yeah, that was done,
A
when
few
was-
months ago.
this
A
year.
few months ago, yeah.
it was for the commercial recreation.
Oh, like a.
So her question was, is do we have any current, this one happened a few months ago. But, do you have a map? Go back a few slides.
I can go back a few
So is
slides.
that for the winery or something like that?
No, so we do have the winery. This one, is that the winery?
No. Here, let me have.
This one's Stetson.
This is the Stetson Winery.
I figured that's.
I know, because I'm right here. This is the 20 acres for the Stetson Winery, the big red barn. That's right off of here, which is Moon State. The tea house with the 3 bungalows that have been improved. Oh, yeah, you're right there. You're, what, this lot right here? Oh, what's your
To the
number?
south.
What's your lot in Why?
Yeah, so that one, so we have.
Good to see you up here anyway.
I'm just here to answer questions.
When properties are rezoned, there's conditions
It's all downhill
that are
from
put on
here.
them. And so when we rescinded this one, it's because they didn't ever meet the conditions of approval of the rezone. General plan meetings don't have those conditions. So the zoning was changed on this one, but the general plan designation was not. So that's probably why we want this update, we can bump that to a.
Real quick, before we start kind of dispersing, I want to remind you real quick.
Excuse me, guys, can you hang tight for a second?
Real quick, before we start dispersing and kind of going into we're going to be here until you guys are not here anymore. So come up, ask us questions personally. That'd be great. These maps are here for you to use. Please don't forget to turn in your comment card if you wrote comments on it. With that, I want to thank you very much for coming out. And it's great to see so many faces here and showing that you guys do really support your community and want to see the future of it grow or develop the way that it should be in a sustainable way. So thank you very much. With that, I'll leave it to you to come up and ask us any questions or come over to our maps, and please, again, don't forget to turn in your cards.